Yes, Tosh.
There are so many of Osho's sannyasins who didn't become enlightened. Where do you think they went wrong?
For someone to become enlightened, they need to give their life to God or truth or beingness, whatever you want to call it. And I just don't think they are willing. When you give your life to God or truth or beingness, you don't have a future anymore because you're gone. And I don't think they were willing. I think it's that simple. They wanted to have an after enlightenment, and there is no after enlightenment for you. Enlightenment is the end of you. It's termination, annihilation of you. And I don't think they were willing. They were happy to get high on Osho's energy. They were happy to collect knowledge and become spiritually knowledgeable, but they weren't happy to give their life to truth, which is a death. And I think this is the main reason that most people don't wake up. You don't survive enlightenment. You who are looking for enlightenment do not survive enlightenment. It is a death. Anything else?
Along the same lines, there are a lot more people who are seekers than awakened people.
What was the question, sorry?
I haven't gotten to the question yet.
Okay.
So why do you think this is?
Why do you think what is, sorry?
There's so many more seekers than there are awakened people. Why aren't people waking up?
The previous answer was the same answer, you see. When I first got interested in higher consciousness, I got interested in it because I wanted to be successful in business. And I realized that if you have clarity and if you have higher consciousness, it's reasonably hard to lose. And so I started developing higher consciousness at a very young age, but for the wrong reasons. It wasn't until I came across Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh in 1983 and took sannyas that my whole directions changed from being successful in business to being successful in higher consciousness towards enlightenment in heart. And it's a totally different game. Being successful in business demands resistance, totality. Being successful in higher consciousness towards enlightenment demands surrender, totality. It is a totally different game. But the recipe is the same, totality. You have to give your whole self to it. You can't be partial. It doesn't work. You can begin partial, but if you really want to wake up, you have to give your whole life to God, a whole life to truth. You can't be partial. There's nothing in it for you. There's no future in it for you. And so what drops in enlightenment is the I that thinks it has a future, thinks it has a past, thinks it is a somebody. That bit disappears. You as a personality, which is not who you are either, is still here, and the body is still here. But you're existing now as beingness aware of beingness, which is very, very different because you don't have any boundaries, you don't have any reference points. And the mind goes silent. Very different way to live. Freedom. The prison is the mind itself, the I. That is the prison. Because along with the I dropping in enlightenment, so does all fear. You don't ever experience fear again. If you do, you're not awake. It's simple. Anything else?
This no future thing, does this mean you surrendered or gave up your future before enlightenment occurred?
Yes. The hardest thing to give up before enlightenment was my children, because what we miss is the future with them. But I had to look at it because I was finding myself as beingness, and I considered it. Would my children be better with a father that might be awake or a father who is still asleep? And the answer came back, a father who is awake. And then I gave my children up. Everything was given to God, unreservedly, in unconditional surrender.
So the understanding that if you were to wake up, it would be better for your children, that thought allowed you to surrender the desire for a future with your kids?
I recall that being the last obstacle. Anything more?
How does one become willing to give their totality to truth?
Once you start witnessing the mind, you start to see all the little lies it tells itself. And you start to examine belief systems that you've been brainwashed with by your religion, your society, your parents, the government, whoever else got into your head. And you get to see that all these belief systems are actually prisons. And you start undoing them because you're interested in freedom. And all belief systems are prisons. And so I just started undoing everything until there was nothing left. It took a long time. It was a deliberate, conscious effort to be free. And during that journey, I got to see that there was actually no purpose in life, that there was no point. See, we're sold the idea that we have purpose and that there is meaning in life. In the nearly 70 years I've been alive, I have not found purpose or meaning that is not a belief system of some kind that has been given to me by someone else. In my own direct experience, I cannot find purpose or meaning in life. But what I could find was a way of living that is very beautiful. And that is the way of the heart. And so before giving my life to truth, I gave my life to heart. And it is the same deal pretty much. Everything for heart and nothing for you. And when we give our life to heart and we remove all the obstacles that are in the way of us perceiving heart, we start to find that we love everybody and everything. And because we love everybody and everything, we just want to take care of everybody and everything. And so we move into service. So 10 years before awakening, I'd moved into service of humanity, the plants, the animals, human beings. I fell in love with everything. When the Advaita Vedanta teachers came to town and I experienced myself as beingness, my mind fell in love with beingness. And it was in that love affair with beingness that my mind gave itself to God. The love affair from my mind, without an I, to beingness is there to this day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Any statements? Any challenges to anything that has been said here this evening? Yeah.
When you said you gave your children, how did that look for you? Like you gave ever seen them again?
It looked like a death. The good news is what dies is not you. You just think it's you. It's not you. And my mind already had a reasonably clear understanding of that because of satori's that I'd had in the 80s when I found myself as the universe. And so my mind had remembered that. It knew it wasn't an I. It knew it wasn't a body. It knew it was beingness. Those satori's were facilitated by my connection with Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. He got into my head. Anything else? Hello?
Some people think that having experience of awakening means they're awakened.
Yep,
Why didn't that happen to you?
it did happen to me. In 1987, I had massive satori's where I found myself as a universe for long periods of time, and I thought I was awake. But my mind hadn't completely surrendered. And so it kept coming back to ego-based reality. And when Osho died in 1990, I felt that my chance of enlightenment had ended because my master had died. But I continued to practice what he taught, removing all the obstacles in the way. And 8 years after he died, an enlightened Advaita Vedanta teacher walked in the room, and the moment he walked in the room, awakening occurred again in his presence. Then the flip-flopping back and forward lasted a year because I saw a lot of awake teachers during that year. And the last one, there hasn't been anyone here since. That was 24 years ago. Anything else?
How did you not get caught in the trap of thinking you were awake and then being stuck in that ego identity?
Well, I did think I was awake for a while because my ego grabbed it and owned it. My awakening. And there was information around that that was it. I was mistaken.
What showed you that? What made you see that you were mistaken?
I was still here. See, I watched Osho because I got close to him and there was nobody there. He was the first person that I ever met that I couldn't register energetically as a somebody. He was just gone. And he was my model internally for enlightenment. An absence of the somebody that thinks it's been somewhere, that thinks it's going somewhere. Once I realized there was still a somebody here, I surrendered the idea of being enlightened. Anything more?
Yeah, this being gone, being nobody there, I can feel that there is nobody there where you're sitting. But you're very animated, very different to your master Osho, who was very unanimated. And a lot of people look at that and don't see the nothingness behind it. Don't have a question. Do you have anything to say to that?
Different personalities. You see, the personality doesn't die, just the identification with it does. And so the personality that's here is different to Osho's, different to Nisargadatta's, different to Ramana's. It's the personality of someone who is really out there. And so the behaviours to this day are still very out there. Whatever personality you have when awakening occurs, it doesn't go away. Then truth uses you as a vehicle to shine a light so others may see. It uses your personality to talk through. And so Osho and I are nothing alike. That is true. Except for one thing, we were both awake. Thank you. Maria, hello.
Hello, Vishrant. I find when survival stuff comes up, I feel worry, and I find it difficult to feel love. Do you think it's possible to find heart without completely dropping the survival stuff?
Okay. So my experience with love is it appears in openness. When we are wide open, we perceive love quite clearly. But if we're closed in any way, shape or form, or somehow defending ourselves, have some defense system going, we miss love because we're too closed. So I started to realize back in the late 80s that openness aided in the facility of perceiving love. And my whole energy went into the practice of openness, removing all obstacles that caused closure, because I wanted to serve heart. And to serve heart, I wanted to experience heart. That removed an awful lot of the I just in that level of openness, because the I itself is a form of closure. Now, if you're running fear, you are very closed. Fear is a defense system. It's the main survival system of the body and mind. Fear also needs to be surrendered. It's only a projection to the future anyway. It's not real. Anything else, Maria?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Hello, Amber.
Hello. Hello. Nice to see you. May I introduce you to Pauline? She's my sister-in-law, and she wanted to say hi.
Yeah,
Hello. What is your name?
Pauline.
Punina?
Pauline.
Punina. Okay,
Pauline.
that's a nice name.
It means little in Latin.
Litter?
Listen.
Little.
Little. Oh, Panema. I studied Latin for 2 years. I'm pretty useless at it, though. Mm.
I'm happy to meet you. For the discussion that is going about, I'm living a very strong sorrow because I am losing. It's not a baby because I was pregnant, but I was pregnant of nothing, and I am discovering it, and it's very hurtful, and it's so difficult to be strong in love, and especially with my boyfriend, and I don't know how to deal with that actually now.
Okay. So you had a false pregnancy, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's an embryonic pregnancy.
Okay. So you've had a loss and you're still in grief. And so you're in the grief cycle. The only way out of the grief cycle is acceptance of what is. And at the moment, you haven't got to acceptance of what is. You're probably still playing with bargaining or denial or anger or depression. There is only one way out of the grief cycle, and it is acceptance of what is. And so if you can apply yourself to finding acceptance of what is, you can find your way out of this terrible place that you're in. But it's up to you. Nobody can do it for you. Only you can do it for you. Okay? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Amber.
Hello. Thank you.
She's taking
Okay.
care of me.
I can see that. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Bye-bye then.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, Rajesh.
Hi, Bhagwan. Is there a difference if someone goes for higher consciousness as opposed to love or enlightenment and practices the same amount?
Higher consciousness is achieved as a result of witnessing the mind. In witnessing the mind, you get to see through the mind and you gain higher consciousness if you're willing to remove any obstacle you find in the way. If you're not willing to remove the obstacles for any reason, you'll stay stuck at a certain level of consciousness. Because higher consciousness is an undoing process, not a building up process. You don't become bigger, better, and more powerful in higher consciousness. you actually become less than. It's like a reverse engineering process. And that's up to you. You're the only one that can do that. Nobody can do it for you.
When you said witnessing, is it specifically witnessing thoughts, emotions, or even actions?
Okay, so when I was 14 years old, I used to lay in bed at night time awake because I was a bit of a night owl. I used to watch my mind just to see what it was doing. And I developed the habit of watching my mind without judgment, watching it without getting involved in analyzing, just watching it like you'd watch a wild animal to see what it would do. And that habit stayed with me my whole life, witnessing the mind. And what I got to see was how it was operating. And I got to see the obstacles that were in the way of higher consciousness, the obstacles that were in the way of heart. And I went about removing them. And as I removed them, my consciousness levels rose. And when your consciousness levels rise, you get to see the big picture in life rather than all the small pictures. You don't get caught in the small pictures anymore because you see the big picture, because you're not caught in drama. You have detachment from the mind. Okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. Hello, Zorba.
Hi, Vishrant.
Hello.
When you were practicing the way of the heart, and you were practicing openness, did you notice identification falling away as well? Was it happening?
Well, people think that identification is there all the time. It's not. The I isn't present all the time. It's only present some of the time. And I found that when I was practicing the way of the heart, being in service to other human beings and animals and the plants, whatever, the story of Vishrant disappeared. And that was quite a pleasant phenomenon, to not have a story of Vishrant. Because the story of Vishrant is the same as the story of you, Zorba. It's problematic, you know, my problems. And so I lost the interest in my problems and became more interested in taking care of others. It didn't really matter to me whether it was a human being or an animal or a plant, because I was in love.
And,
Anything else?
Yes, Vishrant. Those 4 years that you were practicing, as you described, the perception of love was it on and off, and then you could see that as you were more open, it would be easier to find unconditional love. Is that how it worked out?
Well, it started with me realizing that there wasn't very much love in my life at all. There was primal bonding. And primal bonding is a survival mechanism that all human beings have. We have primal bonding to our parents, to our brothers and sisters, to our lovers, to our children. But this is not real love. This is not true love. This is not unconditional love. This is primal bonding. And I realized, because I'd been witnessing my mind and I got to experience some unconditional love, that there was a huge difference between primal bonding and real love or unconditional love. And so I decided to go for real love. And I realized that the only way that you can perceive it is to open up. All forms of closure are in the way. So it's up to you. Are you open or are you closed? Are you supporting closure or are you supporting openness? Are you resisting life or are you accepting life? Up to you. If you want to suffer, just resist life. It works every time. If you don't want to suffer, stop resisting and start accepting life. That works every time as well. Anything else, Silva?
Thank you, Vishrant. Thank you.
Thank you, Silva.
Thank you.
Hello, Dylan.
Hello, Vishrant.
You got sunglasses on, Dylan.
Oh, they're actually blue light blocking glasses.
Is the future so bright you have to wear sunglasses inside?
You're too bright, Vishrant. I had to
Right.
for you. Yeah,
Well, we have to give you a cigar, my friend.
I'll bring one next time. So,
Yep.
what were you going to say, sorry?
I was just going to say, do you have anything that you want to talk about?
Yes. So when I tap into my heart center, I can feel a lot of energy, but not necessarily love. On the other hand, when I try to evoke the emotion of gratitude and feel grateful for things, I feel like I can feel some sort of love. What's the difference and why those two things?
Okay, more than likely when you're feeling into your chest, you're feeling actually pain body.
Okay.
Energy that's trapped there. Because when I look at love, it is everywhere. It's not here, it's everywhere. It's not, people think that love is here. Love is everywhere. The universe is made of love. If you're not perceiving it, it's because you're closed. What you can feel here can be love here, but quite often it's actually wounding, because as you're opening up and the heart chakra is opening, a whole pile of pain that's been repressed is being felt. So it sounds like you're experiencing pain that has been repressed around your heart chakra.
I see. My next question is, how do you let go of the need to be somebody, achieve something, go somewhere?
I actually don't think you really can. What happened for me was I found myself as beingness in the presence of an awake teacher. And as beingness, it was really simple. My mind was expanded. My heart was expanded. It was easy. That's why I think it's easier for people to wake up in the presence of someone who's awake than it is to wake up by themselves without that support. And so I was in Satsang when I realized that I was the universe. And when Satsang finished, I found myself the next day still as the universe. And then I found the next day I was still as the universe. It just never went away. But what did go away was the sense of being a somebody. The I disappeared. It's not like I tried to get rid of it. It just disappeared. It just wasn't there anymore. But neither was fear. The survival mechanism had been defeated. It had dropped. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So when the survival mechanism from those childhood woundings come up and they continue to come up, how do you know if you are making progress or stuck in a cycle of somehow perpetuating or recreating them? By thinking about them, because I understand that you have to feel them to let go of them. You have to feel past it. But then also thoughts can arise as you get into that. Does that create more?
Okay, it can do. And so my process with healing wounding was feeling what was there, and it was uncomfortable, but making it just part of the tapestry of my life. Because whatever we focus on, we actually become. And so I didn't make the mistake of focusing on the wounding. I stayed ambient, aware of everything around me, and made it just a part of the tapestry of life. If we focus on something and we start running a story about it, we are likely to wound ourselves again, because more than likely in the story, there'll be victim orientation. And so my process was simple. I refused to run any stories. I just became willing to feel what was there with a tender okayness and continue my life, because it was only a part of the tapestry. It wasn't the whole of my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right. So feel it, but not magnify or introspect necessarily into it, but feel it whilst feeling everything else and not making it that central focus. Is that the idea?
Yeah. I
Okay.
don't know if you've ever tried this, but whatever you put your awareness on totally, you tend to become. And if you put your awareness on pain, you tend to become pain. But if pain is there and you have your awareness ambiently on everything, it's nowhere near as intense.
But will it also be released? Couldn't you argue by feeling it stronger, you're releasing it faster, therefore clearing it up?
That wasn't my process.
Okay.
My process was simply to warmly welcome it, allow it to be there no matter what I was doing during the day or night. And some of the stuff that I got in touch with lasted for a couple of years. It lasted for a couple of years, and then one day it wasn't there anymore because it had left. The problem we've got with wounding that we carry is we never know how much is there.
Yep.
Is there anything else, Dylan?
How does one let go of the need for validation or approval from people or women?
Okay. So I approached that program or that problem when I was in school, because I was what was considered an uncontrollable child, which meant I couldn't get acceptance from my teachers, my parents, my peers, because I was uncontrollable. I was out there. And so I decided right back then, when I was in primary school, that I was going to be my own best friend. And I wasn't going to look for acceptance outside of myself. I was going to be my own best friend, and I was going to like me. And so right then and there, I stopped looking for acceptance outside of myself. I stopped looking for validation outside of myself and started being my own best friend, which meant I had to accept me totally as I was, broken. Because when we look for acceptance outside ourselves, we might sell out on ourselves to get that acceptance. And I wasn't prepared to do that. I wasn't prepared to twist myself into a knot to get someone else's acceptance. I just refused categorically. Yeah.
So how does the idea of compromise relating to people, the nuance of human communication come into that idea of then accepting yourself in a situation with two people?
Okay, you need to ask the question in a clearer way, because it was a bit too murky.
Okay. Sometimes in human relationships, you might need to compromise with somebody else, and that could be not what you want to do, or some things in the way of that. But then you might just accept yourself taking a wrong action, a foolish action.
Okay, Okay, so up until about the age of 34, 35, I didn't experience a great deal of unconditional love. I experienced primal bonding, and I didn't compromise myself inside relationship, which is probably why 3 of my marriages failed. But after I found heart, I realized that to make a relationship work, you have to be in service to the other, because that's where love guides you to be. You're in service to the other. And in being in service to the other, you do compromise because you love the other. And so my life changed a great deal after I discovered love. Anything else?
No, thank you so much.
Okay. Aziza.
Namaste, Vishrant.
Hello.
I observed that one of the big obstacles of practicing openness and choosing the way of heart is victim-oriented mind. I am aware that from your recommendation is one of the first things to do is to take responsibility of situation, to take responsibility generally of life, my own life. Is there any energetical practices to transform victim-oriented energy inside the body? Because I feel like on the level of energy, it's there.
Okay.
And
And so
one more.
victim orientation is really simple. You start blaming someone else or something else for how you feel. That's a level of immaturity that keeps people locked in lower consciousness because it's a form of resistance. As a mature adult, I learned to not do that. I learned to not blame other people for how I felt. I realized that I make myself feel and that nobody else could make me feel but me. People might do nasty things, but it is me that is reacting. I'm the one that's making me feel about that, not them. They're just doing what they're doing. They're just existence. Now, until you get this understanding of how victim orientation works, where you get to volunteer to be a victim, you're probably not going to stop it. Unless you volunteer to be a victim, you can't be a victim. I just see stuff happening. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, but it's just what is. Nobody can make me feel but me. That is not a possibility. Now, if that's the truth, and it is the truth, how can I blame someone else for how I feel? How can I ever turn myself into a victim? Mahan, wake up. Mahan. He's sound asleep, isn't he? He's going to hate this. That didn't work.
Probably frozen.
Oh, it did work. Okay. Aziza, hello.
Hello. So victim-oriented mind, you were replying.
Yeah. So, say for instance, you're a friend of mine and you betray me. Well, I don't have a belief system in me that says you shouldn't do that. So I don't go into contraction over it in the first place. And even if it did touch me, my mind would take full responsibility for the touch. It wouldn't be blaming you for it. Because I make me feel. Nobody can make me feel but me. This level of maturity is actually required for enlightenment. You can't be a victim. and think that somehow the resistance that offers life is going to work towards enlightenment. You have to be mature enough to take full responsibility for yourself that you make yourself feel. Does that make sense?
Yes. When you practicing way of heart, when I practice way of heart, I feel that the heart reacts faster than I give command from my mind to react, to feel or not. Kind of mind is kind of off, and the heart is like feeling hurt or pain. Yeah.
Okay, so you're projecting onto the heart now. Without the mind, the heart feels nothing. It is the mind that feels. You might feel it in the heart chakra, but it is your mind that feels. Without the mind, the body is just meat. It's not the heart that feels. It is the mind that feels. It is the mind that feels the hurt. You're projecting onto the heart thinking somehow it's separate from the mind. It is not. It is reacting as a result of what's happening in the mind. Okay?
That's interesting. Okay.
See, what you're trying to do is not take responsibility for the reaction by blaming the heart.
Even though his mind is quiet, it's still
I doubt that.
yeah. I'll be with that. Yeah,
You have a
I'll
look
be
and see. You have a look and see.
okay. Thank you, Vishrant.
Okay. Thank you. Prema Bay, hello.
Hi, Bhagwan.
Hello.
Bhagwan, is it possible that I can stay open even when I am carrying dense energy?
Yes. Dense energy only closes you if you react to it. You can stay open no matter what. If you've practiced openness and it's become a default pattern, you can stay open while while you're in physical pain. But if you actually haven't practiced that, well, that won't work. Anything else, Bay?
That's all, Bhagwan. Thank you.
Thank you, Bay. Rishi, hello.
Hello, Vishrant. How do you respond when your life partner disrespects you?
I don't have a life partner, so it's a very difficult question for me to answer. I don't react anyway, no matter what. I respond to everything. If someone decides to disrespect me, I probably will respond. But I won't be reacting. I won't be contracting inside. My mind will stay equanimous because I've removed all the obstacles. If you react and close, you've taken yourself into suffering. It's not the partner that took you into suffering, you took yourself into it because you're responsible for the closure. In the practice of openness, my partners were my best teachers because they were the ones that could get me. Nobody else could get me but them. And so they were my best teachers. Anything else, Rishi?
When you had a partner, she never disrespect you?
Yes, she did. But you know, when you love someone, you just take care of them. and I just took care of her. There would have had to have been someone to disrespect also.
Mm.
I can't find anyone here. The world we live in operates on respect. And unless we have an understanding of that, it's very difficult to manage the world we live in. But the bottom line for me is I really don't care. Anything else?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Amber, you have your hand up again.
Yes, hello. Yeah. Pauline would like to ask you something.
When you
Right.
feel guilty for something, is it, first question, is it good or wrong? And how can you fix the wrong you make without feeling victim?
Okay, sorry, I didn't understand your question. Could you please ask me again?
How can you fix the wrong you made? And another question about guiltiness. How c'est comme ça? Guilt. When you feel guilty of something bad you make.
Okay, so I was brought up by Roman Catholic priests and brothers, and they used to use guilt and fear to try to control me. I wouldn't buy fear and I wouldn't buy guilt. I've never supported guilt in myself ever. Now, that doesn't mean that I haven't regretted some of the things that I've done in my life, but why would you ever want to support guilt? That's you beating you up. How has that ever been your own best friend? The world will beat you up. Why do you want to help them? In the way I was brought up, I was probably beaten every day. And they tried to use the fear of being beaten and guilt to control me. I just refused to be controlled. I refused to beat myself up. They were already doing a pretty good job of it. Do you see any advantage whatsoever in beating yourself up?
C'est un avantage.
But you can feel hurted to have hurt someone.
Yeah, and then you can feel regret for that, but you don't have to beat you up. There's a difference between regret and guilt. In regret, you feel sincerely sorry for what you've done, but you don't beat yourself up. In guilt, you may feel sorry for what you've done and you beat yourself up. I do not see any advantage whatsoever in beating yourself up.
And is it possible to fix what you've done wrong?
Sorry? Well, you can make amends if you want. Yeah, well, you can do that if you want. So what? Anything else?
No. Hello. Big. Yeah. You know, sometimes you speak about perfection upon perfection upon perfection.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you think that in everything that's negative that can happen to us, there would be a positive side at one point and we can't see it, or is it something much deeper you're referring to?
I'm referring to something way beyond the mind. And the only way that can be known is through Satori. Anything else?
Hmm. So is there always something positive that happens to the negative, if or not necessarily? Sometimes there is just shit happens,
So what?
and yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm not really clear today.
Okay, no, you're not. Yes, Mahan.
Thank you.
Hello, Vishrant.
Hello.
There are some questions from online viewers.
Uh-huh.
Keaton asks, I get goosebumps when I feel suspended in beingness and gravity. I feel awe often in solitude, especially when in nature during the night. I wonder, does nature herself have her own Buddha field? And is it her Buddha field that is moving me? Or does this come from within?
Everything that we see and hear has an energy field, everything, because everything is made of energy. A Buddha field is very different because a Buddha field is created because that is aware of the mind becomes aware of itself. In other words, awareness becomes aware of itself, or beingness becomes aware of itself, or God becomes aware of itself. That energy field is very different than any field you'll find in nature.
And Keaton also asks, why do I feel sadness in solitude despite mindfulness and not being able to help but remember an almost ancient feeling of connection?
Does it really matter whether you understand or you don't understand? Understanding is the booby prize. Why not just allow yourself to feel what is there? Allow yourself to warmly welcome it. Understanding is the wrong direction. That just keeps you stuck in your mind. Anything else, Mahan?
Narasimha asks, what helped you to feel the very unpleasant feelings without going into thinking?
I developed a relationship with pain when I was quite young because I was into extreme sports. And I made pain okay, because if I didn't make it okay, I could not be involved in extreme sports. I did find it harder to make emotional pain okay, but because I'd already made physical pain okay, it was relatively easy. Anything else?
And Alva asks, how do I find heart and openness? I very much want to live here and be in service to love.
Then you have to find everything that is in the way and remove it. All obstacles have to be removed. And you can't see the obstacles unless you're witnessing the mind. And so you have to develop a practice of witnessing the mind without judgment. And then you start to see what the mind is up to. You start to see the obstacles that may be in the way, and that gives you the opportunity to do the work of undoing those obstacles. Some people think that insight is enough, but it is not. Insight is simply an invitation to do the work to take the obstacles away. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Susha.
Hi, Bhagawan.
Hello, Susha.
Bhagawan, when you say give your life to God, why does this touch me and make me cry so much?
I don't really know why it touches you. It touched me because I was in love with God. I was in love with truth. And I still am. In Christianity, it is said that Jesus said, to find heaven or to enter heaven, you have to give your whole heart, your whole mind, and your whole body to God. And I agree. On that point, Jesus got it right. Up to you, though. There's only one sin that I find on the planet. Only one. It's called selfishness. All the joy in the world comes from being a giver. All the misery in the world comes from being a taker. It is quite simple. Anything else, Susha?
Yeah, I could see what is going on. When my mind gets stuck in mundane and small things, it feels that's what, and you're talking about giving life, and here I am getting stuck in small things. That's probably what breaks me. I see it.
Oh, don't give yourself a hard time. Put your awareness somewhere else. Giving yourself a hard time's not nice.
No.
Be your own best friend.
Yes.
Anything else, Susha?
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Susha. Thank you for Satsang. Good to see you brave hearts here tonight. Bye-bye, everyone online. I can see that.